He once starred on Empire and turned out to be a big old liar. Disgraced actor, is there any other kind? Jussie Smollett was found guilty of 5 counts of disorderly conduct earlier this evening in his hate crime hoax. He was on trial in Chicago for faking an attack on himself in 2019, creating a phony story claiming that MAGA hat-wearing assailants beat him up, tied a noose around his neck because he was black and gay. It sounded so outlandish, it had to be fake, and very much like Kat's hair, it was. The jury finding him guilty, found him guilty today after 8 hours of deliberations. Earlier, Smollett even took the stand in his own defense, saying, quote, "There was no hoax." That's a strong defense. But he couldn't act his way out of this one. He now faces up to 3 years in prison, but most experts say he'll probably just get probation and community service. All right, I'll go to you, Joe, first. What do you think of the verdict?
I don't think it could have gone any other way.
Yeah.
I want to know what that 6th charge was that he seems to have not been found guilty of.
Do you know that?
I don't know.
Yeah, because he's not a good actor, and we found out he's not a very good director either. And he's not a good casting agent.
Right.
Because for his white supremacist, could he have gotten 2 bigger, blacker guys to play the role? I mean...
Yes!
Were Shaquille O'Neal and Karl Malone not available for this? And his special effects, his noose looked like a piece of linguine around his neck.
I know.
Come on.
And the best thing about the noose is that he had it under the collar.
Yes,
Who puts a noose under the collar? Like the guy, I'm gonna put a noose. Oh, let's get it under the collar. We're going to church later.
That's nice.
But yeah, it's funny. The Nigerians could be accused of cultural appropriation. Those roles were meant for white racists.
Exactly, exactly. And even when they challenged him on that, and he said, "Look, I had a scratch under my eye." And you see these 2 gigantic guys, that the 2 of them against one, it could have been 30 Jussie Smollett against one of those guys, and they still would have kicked his ass. So I'm so glad that we're not having a discussion now of how he got away with this and the impact of that. He's a terrible person. He created a lot of very bad energy, and he could be looking at a couple days of probation, community service.
Yes. And then a reality show called I'm Back with Jussie Smollett. I never lied. This is a vindication, other Joe, for Nigerians.
Yeah.
Getting a bad rap with the emails.
You know, we can only hope that canceled culture doesn't ruin their acting career.
Yeah.
But to Yes and Joe's point, I relate to Jussie Smollett because I've faked that I've won a number of fights. In fact, all the fights I've ever won are fake, but they never happen. But if I cast those 2 guys as my adversaries, I'd be like, they got a few shots in. But man, that really gives actors a bad name, just like actors give their kids bad names.
Nicely done.
This guy's good.
Yeah. Kat, I think that Smollett has kind of an interesting insight into how the world works. That he doesn't, I don't think he's that worried that almost every calamity can be turned into some kind of opportunity. That's why I do think he's going to have his own show, or he probably won't serve, he'll probably go on probation, and we'll see him again.
I guess, but he has to say, I did it.
Yes.
Because, I mean, there's a video of the rehearsal.
Yes.
Like, there were rehearsals. He put so much time into this and spent no time thinking about it, which is remarkable to me because all the steps, finding these people, rehearsing it, you know, he's like, yeah, I'll write him a personal check, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
You know, but he didn't think about it at all. But again, how does he even have a friend right now? Do they have to be like, yeah, this is completely unfair. I can't believe this was not a hoax. You were hate crimed. You know, he has to say, I did it.
No, but you know what? a couple of things, Harold, and then I'll let you. His family is believing him, and I don't know if that's for real. But the other thing, too, is he didn't really try to prove his innocence. He was hoping that you shouldn't care whether I'm guilty or not. You should just acquit me based on systemic racism. And that that's why, like, maybe he's hoping that the fact that he hoaxed people won't matter. I don't know.
That's the sad and tragic part for me, in addition to everything that's been said. And jury seemed like, the justice seemed like it was done this evening. There are people who are beaten up on the streets because they're gay.
Yeah.
There are people who are abused because they're black or because they're different than someone else. And for this guy to do this, I don't know this guy. His family, I would assume, would be supportive of him as any family would. But this misappropriation of these labels and these accusations, it does nothing to advance the cause that I think he, at some level, some part of him genuinely wants to see supported, which is equality in society and better treatment for people. And how he did and what he did, he got what he deserved from this jury this evening.
Yeah, I think but I think it always, his ego came before a crusade or a desire for the betterment of things. What if by chance he becomes a victim of a real hate crime? You know, there should be we could call it the boy who cried wolf. What do you think of that as a scenario, right? Have you ever heard that before?
Yeah, I always felt it was weird that they let the boy guard against the wolves to begin with.
Yeah, that was true.
It was just a bit.
Yeah,
Talking about bad casting.
that was really bad casting. Very bad casting. Yes.
No wonder he's a little weird.
Yeah.
What happens if a wolf comes and he's a boy?
All right, before we go, a really quick reminder. Come see me. I'll be in Newark, New Jersey this Sunday. Gutfeld.com. Ticket information, you'll find it there.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.